Hi, I'm Marissa Frosch, and this is the Amphibian Press podcast. Today we're talking to Odessa Rose, author of Water in a Broken Glass and Into the Mirror. And she's got a whole bunch of other stuffs for us to talk about, so let's get going. Hi, Odessa.
Hi, Marissa. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm very excited.
I'm excited too. I can't wait. I found you through my um, she's not really my cousin. My aunt married, or no, my uncle married her aunt. Um, but she got to work on the film Water in a Broken Glass, which you have the movie poster I see.
Yes,
So
it
that
was a,
was
it's a gift.
that had to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Do you do you want to tell us a little bit about the book?
Oh, yeah. Water in the Broken Glass is about a sculptor named Tanya Mims who in high school finds herself attracted to another female student, and she does not want to deal with those feelings at all. So she kind of buries them deep within her artwork. And that helps her to become a renowned sculptor. And at the height of her career, she meets a guy named Malcolm Holland, and all those feelings from high school go away. So she figures that was just a phase she was going through. And then a few weeks into her relationship with Malcolm, she meets a woman named Satin Pierce, a bookstore owner, and all those feelings from high school come rushing back. But this time, she can't sculpt them away. She can't run from them, and she has to deal with them for the first time in her life. So that's what the book is about.
I love this premise. It really spoke to me just as a woman, and um, I can't wait to read the book. So, tell me a little bit more about Tanya herself as a person.
Tanya she's a sweet person. She grew up with her mom, dad, and sister. She loves art. At first, she kind of had little. She was a little self-conscious about her dark skin and things like that. But work with her artwork, she came to kind of her artwork and her family. She came to kind of embrace it and see it as a plus instead of a minus. And she's really loyal, but she's just torn between who she's supposed to be. And so the book is really her struggle of not just her sexuality, but who she's the person she wants to be, and who who she tries to get permission from to be the person she needs to be. Things like that.
I love those kind of stories, and I love when books end up with acceptance because we are who we are and we need to accept it and love
Yeah.
us ourselves for being ourselves. Um,
Yes.
so tell us a little bit about Malcolm.
Oh, Malcolm is awesome. He's the sweetest guy you ever want to meet. I mean, he just loves Tanya to pieces. He's very supportive. He's very intelligent. I mean, he's everything any woman would want in a man. And he's just there for Tanya, and he's there for anybody that's in his life. He has his own company, and he just does the best that he can with what he has. But he does struggle with trying to be the man that his father wants him to be. So that kind of gets in the, and gets in the way of who he is at sometimes. So again, that theme of being who you're supposed to be comes in even with him.
Awesome. And lastly, let's give Satin a couple minutes.
Uh, Satin Pierce. Satin Pierce is just this. She's a woman that's so mature, and she's grounded in who she is. She loves herself. Not that she didn't have her own struggles, but she was able to overcome them, and so that helps her to be the strong person that Tanya's attracted to. She's intelligent. She's a bookstore owner, and she's always reading, and she loves art. And so that's one of her draws. That's one of the things that draws her to Tanya is Tanya's art. Even though when she meets Tanya, Tanya's not really embracing her blackness, as it were, because she's using her art to kind of hide from that. So when she meets Satin and she sees how Satin embraces everything about herself and how she's not even afraid to say that she's a gay woman, so Satin is just awesome. Most people just love Satin right off the bat, and I was hoping that they would, because of who she is.
So, what inspired you to write this story?
Um, Several things inspired me, but one of the things was a friend of mine. She's gay, and she wouldn't tell me for the longest time. And when she finally told me, she said it was because she thought I wouldn't be her friend anymore. And I didn't understand where that was coming from, because that's so far from who I am, that I didn't understand it. But in writing this book, I learned that it really had nothing to do with me and everything to do with her accepting it. She couldn't tell herself, so she couldn't tell me until she was ready to, to kind of embrace that herself. Um, so it's not a story about her, but when that came up, all of a sudden Tanya Mims pops in my head, and she couldn't go away. And so I said, okay, let me just write her down. And then Satin came, and then Malcolm came, and then Aunt Joe and Nikki and everybody. This book just came from me, just from that question, me asking what happened. So a lot of people wonder if it's autobiographical or if it's about my friend, but it's none of this happened. I mean, it's just, for whatever reason, that's the story that came to mind, and I just ran with it. And I'm grateful that I did.
It sounds like you really have a good cast of characters with this novel. And aside from it being inspired by your friend, are there any other influences for characters in your real life?
My husband, Malcolm, had to be a good guy. And so when I was writing it, I said, okay, what would a good guy do? What does a good guy look like? What does he feel like? What does he smell like? And so, if anything, Malcolm is not a prototype of my husband. It's just that I said, let me look at what my husband does and what good guys do, and my father and things and people like that, and a couple of my friends' husbands. So he may be a composite of all those people, all those really good men that I know, and just taking little pieces of what they've done. And so that's where he comes from. I think that, yeah, yeah.
That's great. Um, so let's talk a little bit about the fact that this was turned into a movie, because that's every author's dream.
Yes, yes. And it was, it's so funny because I always start a novel off with, if this were a movie, where would it start? Because I'm very visual, and so that's how I start. That's how I normally start a novel, but never really believing that it could actually happen. When I was writing this, I was in college, and so I just it was the story came. I couldn't leave it alone, and so I'm in college writing, and at the same time, I'm taking my courses and things like that. But I never thought that this would happen, even though I say if this were a movie, how would it start? But never once did I think that this would happen. So when I received an email from a young filmmaker, Jamel Thomas at the time, back in 2009, we thought it was earlier. She thought it was like 2006, but it was in 2009. That she sent an email asking for the rights. And at first I thought somebody was playing with me, because it was just like, just out of the blue, here's somebody asking for the rights to, turn a book into a movie. And it's like, oh, this doesn't happen to people, So, but she turned out to be the real thing. It was just incredible. Just, and the funny thing is, it came at a point where I was doubting what I was doing, because the book had been out for a while, and it was selling, and it continues to sell. But for somebody to just come out of the blue and ask you for the rights, you're like, what's going on? So that's how it started, with that one email from her.
And then did you get to be involved in the filmmaking process at all, or was it kind of you signed your rights away and that was that?
For the most part, I signed my rights away, and that was that. But I was lucky that Jamel, even though she wrote the script, which is good because I don't want to write scripts, especially after this experience. That's way too much work. I don't want to do it. I don't want anything to do with films other than like what Jamel let me do. She let me come on set every single day. She let me read the script. I was at a table read. I mean, she kept me involved in the whole process. And I kind of just stepped back and just let her do, because to me, I write novels. I don't do movies. She knows what's best, and she stuck so close to the book till it was. It was just awesome. But at the same time, as an author, you have to separate yourself from the movie part. And I had done that so well that when they were filming, it took me a couple weeks to realize that they were even using lines from the book, because I just didn't pay that much attention. I was just like, okay, this is the movie, this is my book, you know. So there was one scene they had done, and I was standing, and the other cool thing, Jamel let me tape behind the scenes, so I filmed everything that was going on, which was really cool. And I'm standing there, I'm filming this one scene, and I'm like, did I write that? And I go home and I flip through the book. I'm like, oh my God, yes, I did write that. It's one of the steamy scenes. But yeah, yeah, it was just awesome. Yeah, she just kept me involved the whole way. And at one point when we were filming, when Victoria Rowe's character came, she plays Aunt Jo. Um, they were asking about what type of wine Aunt Jo would drink, and so she asked me like right there on the spot, and I'm just like, I don't know, because I separated myself. You know, I didn't think about what wine Aunt Jo would drink. And so they decided, which is like, that's fine, it's cool. Whatever you guys want. And even one of the actors who had read the book, she came to me, she was like, well, I read the book, and is this how you want to play the character? And I sent her right to Jamel. I said, I know what I want for the book. I don't know what she wants for the screen. So stick with Jamel. That's your best bet.
That sounds like a great relationship, like the best way that could have turned out.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I learned that a lot of authors aren't allowed on set because, you know, you that's your baby. Mm-hmm. And if they're doing something that's different, or, you know, that, you know, it can cause problems. But I was really, a friend of mine told me the book is the book, the movie's the movie. So and she did that early on. She helped me to, you know, come to terms with that early on. And so that's why when I came on set, and for the most part, I was just happy to be on set. Mm-hmm. And I was starstruck. I was looking at all these beautiful people, and everybody's doing all this stuff. You know, even the crew, that, you know, the photographers and all of them. I was just totally starstruck and just trying to stay out of the way. So I didn't want to mess with the process at all. And I just had a ball.
That's great. How was the premiere?
The premiere was incredible. It was the most surreal thing I could, as an author, it's like, you just, even when it was happening, it didn't seem like it was happening. It was like, this is crazy. And I can remember, like, when they were filming, I would leave set and call my husband and go, Michael, this is crazy. I would always do that, especially when something, like when Victoria Rowe came, and even when, like, the lead character, Billy, would do something really great, or we would be at some wonderful location, I would leave and I'd go outside and call my husband, go, Michael, this is crazy. I can't believe this is happening. And so that's how I felt the whole night during that premiere. It was at the Senator Theater in Baltimore. It's a historic theater, and it seats about 700, and we pretty much sold that baby out. And that was amazing to see 600, it was over 650 people there. And we didn't expect that. We knew as we got closer to the theater, but earlier that morning, Jamel had looked at the numbers, and we had like 500 and something people. And we were like, wow, I think we're going to hit 600. So by the time we got there, it was like 650 something people there. And we were just like, oh my God, this is crazy. And I wanted to leave. I didn't have to leave and go call Mike, because he's right beside me this time. I was just like, oh, this is crazy. I can't believe this is happening. And it was every cast member came. It was just incredible. And we had a great time, and people loved the movie, which was awesome, because you never know if people are going to really get what you put on screen and they're going to like it, but they enjoyed it very much.
That's just, I'm like, I can't even talk.
That's me. That was me. That's how I was the whole night.
Oh, it just sounds amazing. I'm so happy that Emmy got to be part of it, because that's how this came to be.
Emmy is incredible.
Yes.
As a script supervisor, she kept them on point. She knew everybody's lines. She made sure if somebody picked up a cup a certain way, that they held it the same way. She kept that movie just intact. It was awesome. She's great. She's just great at what she does. I just want to say that they did a great job. Everybody, especially the young lady, Billy Krishan, who plays Tanya, the lead. She was 24 when we filmed that, and I kept coming home telling my husband, this young girl has to carry this film, and not once did she drop it. If anything, as the film went on, she lifted it up even more. And the young lady that plays Nikki, Candace Diller, we had so many great people in the film. Like Candace was Miss United States of 2013. And now she's going to be on the Real Housewives of Potomac, starting April 1st. So, and the guy that plays Malcolm, Wes Hall, he's just incredible as Malcolm. It's just, and of course we have Victoria Rao from The Young and the Restless. She's in it. A woman named Lee Evans, she plays Robin, and Shani Ashley, she plays Miyoki. The cast is just awesome. They did and I always, even at the premiere, I wasn't sure if I thanked them enough, because I'm not sure if they understood how important their roles, in the way that they played the roles, was for me. And that I just love them to death. I just love all of them to death. And so I always want to make sure I let them know what a great job they did. And, especially since, I don't know. Like I said, I still don't know how we got that marvelous cast. Even with Tanya Belafonte, and just her playing Satin, and how she ended up. We casted her at the last minute. She came down on a Wednesday. They talked to her Wednesday night, Skyped like this. Wednesday night, she did a read with Billy. They brought her down Thursday morning, and she killed the role. It was just like, it seemed like everything just fell into place with these actors. And so I just always wanted to just make sure I thank them, because when I was writing this story, I had no idea that I would actually see these characters on screen and be a part of that. So I just always want to thank them.
Yeah, we gotta thank the people who make it worth it, make it awesome. I know. It's kind of interesting because, there's like photos of me playing with her older sister, but I don't think Emmy and I have ever met. So aside from Facebook, so I mean, it's just it's one of those things. It's like, thanks for Facebook.
Yes.
All right, so Water in a Broken Glass is the book and the movie.
Yes.
Let's talk about In the Mirror, which was your second novel.
Yes. In the Mirror is about a physical therapist named Jasmine Falls. Jasmine Falls she's just a beautiful young lady. She's single. And she wants very much to be married. Her mother and father have been married for 30-some years, and she just loves the relationship that they have. Her best friend Candy is married, and she's actually pregnant again, and she has like 5 children. So she just wants what all of them have. And she just can't seem to find it. And it's not that every man that she's run into was just mean or just awful. It's just that she just hasn't found that person to connect with yet. And so one day, it was right after, I'm not going to read the whole plot, but one day she meets a guy named Daniel Roberts. Daniel Roberts comes into her center for some therapy, and she falls head over heels in love with him. The only problem is Daniel is married and has 2 children. And she has never in her life, wanted to be with a married man. She never even wanted to, she even says, I don't even like listening to music that deals with somebody cheating. So her falling for Daniel comes completely out of the blue. And so she falls for him and he falls for her. And so she gets involved in this relationship with him. And she kind of keeps it a secret from her parents because, of course, she knows her parents will not approve of this relationship at all. But they kind of suspect that she's messing with a married guy. Her friend Candy already knows because she works at the center with her. That's where they met. And so she, of course, is like telling her, you're wrong. You shouldn't do this. He's just using you. But in her mind, she has that same mindset that a lot of other women have, that he loves me. Eventually, he's going to leave his wife and be with me. So what she does is she decides, okay, I have to prove to my family, because like I said, her parents are on the verge of pretty much confronting her about this. And Candy is giving her grief. So she's like, I have to prove to them that Daniel loves me and not his wife. So what she does is she breaks into his house. She breaks in on a Monday and she stays there until Saturday to observe him with his family so that she can see the dynamics. And so the question is, does she see what is meant to be or what never should have been? So she just hides out in that, and nobody knows she's there. Candy knows she's there. but Daniel doesn't know she's there, and the wife and kids don't know she's there. So it was a pretty interesting book to write and very fun.
That's such an interesting premise. You seem to deal a lot with these topics that a lot of people consider like taboo, um, but like cheating. You know, everyone says, "Oh, I would never be with a married man," but you really don't know until you're in that position. And I
Right,
like this idea of how far would she go to prove that he loves her. This
right.
sounds really interesting.
Yeah, and one of the things normally when you have that kind of relationship, like when you have like fatal attraction or obsessed or whatever, the other woman is somebody that you just despise and can't wait until it's dead by the end of the movie or the book. But I wanted to make the other woman human because she's somebody's mother, she's
Hmm.
somebody's daughter, she's somebody's sister, she's somebody's friend, and she's not this horrible evil person that you just have to kill in order to to get this marriage back on track. And so I wanted to just tell the story from the other woman's point of view and not make it so that I'm not trying to condone
Right.
adultery or anything in that sense, but just let you see it from the other woman's point of view and just see what the other woman has to go through in order to stay in that position. And so it's not just for the married woman who has her husband and it's kind of worried. It's also for women who are in this position so that they can see themselves and see themselves in the way that they've never been shown before. Because like I said, they always show them as these horrible, horrible women. I mean, I just watched Play Misty for Me the other day, and Draper, she's just insane. I mean, I was even at the end going, man, this woman's crazy. And I'd forgotten how crazy she was. But Jasmine's not crazy. Even though when I tell people what she's done, everybody says she's crazy. And I always go, she's not crazy. She's in love. And somebody told me, yeah, she's crazy in love. So either way, yeah, she's just crazy. But it was a fun book to write. I don't, only way I can say where it came from is because I kept hearing all these stories about the other woman, and a lot of talk shows were talking about them. And then I learned that you have these support groups for the other women. And so it was kind of just a weird thing for me. So I was just kind of wondering, how does the other woman exist in this environment? How does she maintain? How does she live day to day? What are the things that she has to ignore? And the other woman has to ignore a lot. That's what I learned in writing this book. She has to ignore a lot. She has to accept a whole lot in order to be in that position. And so it was really interesting to write that book.
That yeah, it sounds really interesting. Um, so I'm sorry, but what went into her planning of this? Because she's spending almost a week there.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. I don't want to give away too much,
Right.
but
Yeah.
she does a whole lot of planning. I mean, she just the things that Jasmine does. I mean, I was writing it, but I was like, oh my God, okay, because she has to consider a whole lot of things. She has to, how am I going to use the bathroom? How am I going to wash
Right.
up? What am I going to eat? I mean, she plans it out to the T. And in fact, the other thing she has to let Daniel know why she's not around because they've been together for 2 years. And
Oh.
so she has to be gone for this week, and so she has to talk to him and things like that. So a lot of things went into her getting into this house and staying in there and just doing all kinds of things just to be that fly on the wall, which is what
Right.
she is.
Yeah. I when I read the book description, I wasn't really sure what you meant by that, but yeah, that's her breaking in. That's pretty. It's such an interesting concept
Yeah,
to see. Like, what would you see if you were the fly on the wall?
yeah, yeah. And being the other woman, and other women always they say they don't want to see the wife, but they do. They're curious about her. They want to know if he's doing certain things with her. So there's a whole lot of stuff that goes on in her mind and what she sees in this book. I loved writing this story. It was I mean, it was fun, just fun.
It sounds fun. Um, so your third book is Kismet's Journey. What's that
Yes.
about?
That's about a 12-year-old girl who her name is Kismet Borders. Kismet, at an early age, she decides that growing up is the worst thing in the world that can happen to you. It's going to
I
just
agree.
ruin her life. You know, there's some kids, oh, I can't wait to grow up. Kismet is not one of those kids. Kismet is one of those kids that's like, I don't want to grow up. I don't want any parts of it. I see what it's going to do to my life, and I don't want it. So she's just this tomboyish kid who tries her best to hang on to her childhood. And so that's pretty much what that was about. Right now, an agent is looking at it, so I'm hoping that she takes it and we can move on from there. But that's what that story is about.
I totally relate. I was the same way as a kid. I was like, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Don't make me do that.
And she tries to hold it off as best. I liken her to the Grinch that stole Christmas. You know how he says, I must keep Christmas from coming. Her thing is, I must keep puberty from coming somehow. That's her thing.
Oh, that sounds fun too. So you have a lot of fun, kind of interesting premises with your books. Are you working on anything new right now?
Yes, I'm working on a book called The Subway. Too much in the early stages to talk about right now. Sometimes when I talk about it too much, it takes away from the writing. So, but I'm working on a book right now called The Subway, and I'm hoping to have that. I started working on it before the film, but once filming started and I was on set, I didn't want to do anything but focus on that film. And I couldn't even get back to myself for a minute, and it took about a year for me to get back to myself. And also, once filming wrapped, I redid In the Mirror, because In the Mirror came out with my press, Cool Water Press. And so I actually redid the cover, redesigned it and everything, and put it back out. And the cool thing is the cover model for that book is the woman Tanya Belafonte, who plays Satin in the film. So I asked her to come because I think she's just gorgeous. And all the women in there are gorgeous. But all right, I'm here.
Okay,
I see you.
I'm here.
I'm
Technology.
It's working though.
Yes, we stayed connected. Whew.
Yes.
Scary for a second. Okay. So you got a new cover model for In the Mirror.
Yes.
Um,
Tanya Belafonte.
yes.
Who plays Satin.
So that must have been kind of cool where you had that opportunity.
Yeah. I was just like, I knew I wanted to redo the cover. My first cover, actually, what in the Mirror had, was it two? It came out once before. This is like the third cover. It came out once before with a smaller press. That smaller press shut down, and so they gave me back the rights. So I redid it, and I redid it with my cousin. And then my cousin passed away, but even before she passed away, I knew I was going to redo the cover, and so I was like, okay, what can I do? And I was like, oh, I'm gonna see if Tanya will do it. And I called her up, asked her, and she came right on down and did it. And it was awesome. It was like, again, a surreal moment, you know, because she's just incredible. We call Tanya the commercial queen because she's been in so many commercials, you know. And it was so funny because when she was on set, like I knew she was gorgeous. I loved her. I knew she could act. And then some coworkers said, "Do you know who you have in your film?" And I was like, "Well, her name is Tanya Belafonte. She's awesome." And so they took me to her website, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, she's wonderful." I'm like, how do we get? I don't know how. Well, I do know. I know it's just the way this whole thing happened. It's nothing but God set this whole thing up. And so I always say that the way this film came about, you know, the people, the actors, and all the crew members that came together to make this film so wonderful just lined up so perfectly because of God. So even when she came down and did the book cover, I was still kind of starstruck. So when people showed me her website, I was like, oh my God. And so I was looking at some of the commercials she was in, and I was like, I've seen that commercial. But of course, I didn't know Tanya Belafonte then. But, you know, then it was like, oh my, and then all of a sudden, she was always on my TV screen. Red Lobster commercials, Home Depot commercials. I can't look at a commercial now without looking up to see if it's Tawny or even the young lady Shani. You know, it's a lot of them have done commercials. So it's this movie has changed my life in so many ways where I can't even just look at a commercial now and go, oh, okay. It's just awesome.
That is
And
awesome.
yeah, yeah.
So why don't we go right into Cool Water Press?
Cool Water Press came about because of In the Mirror. Like I said, when it was first published, it was published under Dewdrop Publishing, and he had to close his press down. So he gave me back the rights. So I didn't want the book to just sit. And as authors, if your book has already been out, and unless it's selling, crazily, publishers aren't going to touch it. So I didn't want it to just sit. So I said, let me start a press so I can put the book back out. And so that's what I did. So that's where Cool Water Press came from. I put it out in 2013. I started the press. And it was mainly just so I can get In the Mirror back out there. And so because it's too good of a story for readers not to see it. And I didn't want it, like I said, I didn't want it to sit. So that's how Cool Water Press came about. Cool Water Press is awesome, but that's a lot of work to self-publish a book.
Yes, it is.
You've done it?
Yeah, we created Amphibian Press, my friend and I, so we're in it together, but it's a lot of work. And we picked up our first author the very end of last year, and her book comes out in June, and it's a lot of work. Thank you.
Yes. It's. I mean, it's fun, and of course, there's the perks of you get to put the book out when you want to. Mm-hmm. Like I could pick the cover. I could just say, okay, Tanya, will you do it? And it was my cover. I could do it the way I want to do it, and it's yours. And that has its own feeling because, it's like, wow, this is mine. This is my baby. But then it's, okay, so-and-so wants it. Let me ship it. Let me do this. Let me do this. I have to design the cover. I have to, make sure the bills are paid. I have to do all this business stuff that takes away from the writing, which is like, and it's a hard balance because once I start doing the business stuff, then it's hard to get back to the writing. And once I start doing the writing, I don't want to do the business stuff. So it's kind of, I was like, okay, let me try. I think I'll go traditional route next time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my stories were serials. It's serialized, so a traditional publisher wouldn't even go there. So that's kind of how it started for me, and now I love the business side of it, and I love helping authors. So I'm sticking with it. But you're absolutely right; it's so hard to balance.
Yeah, and even even with you have to promote it yourself, which mm-hmm. is the same thing you have to do even if with your major publisher. And again, unless your book is just selling millions of copies, they're not going to send you on these big tours and things, book tours, and you don't discover that until after your book is out. Mm-hmm. But it's just so I know that if I get with a traditional press, I'll still have to do the promoting, but that's okay because I can still do the promoting and I can still stick with the writing. But all that other stuff, I don't know. But for you, what made you go ahead and self-publish? I mean, I know you said with the serials, but what made you go ahead and do that?
Well, my very first kind of introduction to self-publishing was this woman named Joanna Penn. She does the Creative Penn podcast, and yeah. So when I started watching her, she was always saying, "This is something that everybody can do. Everybody can do this," and I'm ridiculously optimistic. I was like, "Yes, I can." And my friend who had this story that I completely believed in, V.S. Holmes, and the book was Smoke and Rain. It's a fantasy story, and no one would touch it, and I couldn't believe it because I helped her work on it, and it wasn't even just because she was my friend I liked it. It was because it was beautifully written, and probably the only fantasy books that I will ever read are hers because they're just so beautifully written. And when she couldn't get a traditional deal, I was like, it, like you kind of said, it's I can't let this book rest. It needs to be read by people. So, and then she started looking into it, and she was like, "Hey, why don't we start a press?" And because I was in school for marketing at the time, so I was like, "Yeah, I'll handle the marketing. You do the editing side, and we'll split the work." And then my I ended up doing the serial, it was kind of because I was like, I'm going to focus on this project because I can now. So, and that character, Zurich Devorty is his name, and he just wouldn't get out of my head. So he wanted
I
to be
like,
read.
I like those characters when they won't leave you alone. That's when you know you got something.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of our story of how we got into indie publishing.
Wow. So would you say it's rewarding for you?
Yes, it's very rewarding. The best thing for me though is helping other authors. I love hearing from readers. That's always, the best. But actually taking an author from no sales to some sales, or some sales to a lot of sales, is what really keeps me going. So
Yeah, we need that.
and the press has allowed me to do that. So um, okay, so you also have a project called This Is Baltimore 2, which is a YouTube channel?
It's actually, we call it a video magazine, but now I'm learning that it's more of a documentary style show. Um, it started ironically because I couldn't blog. People kept saying, Dessa, you have to blog, authors blog. And I'm just like, well, I don't have anything to blog about. It's like I write, but, and I love talking about writing, but not all the time. So I was like, but I love talking about other people. I love promoting other people. And so I would see people doing great things. And I started off just I had this little bloggy that's about the size of my cell phone. And if I saw somebody doing something really great in the community, I would stop and, talk to them real quick. And then I would post it. So the videos are maybe like 5 minutes or something like that. But then I met this wonderful guy. I was on my way to work, and this guy named Matt Harris was standing outside with a table selling his books. And at that point, I was at a point in my writing career where I was like, I need to get out and really try to sell my books. And I come out of the subway, and there's this guy standing on the corner selling his books. So I said, when I'm on my break, I'm going to go out and talk to this guy. So I did, and when I went out there, I found out he was blind. And he's standing on the corner selling his book, and he's blind. And so not only is he doing something that most authors are afraid to do, just stand out there and just get this done, but he's blind, so he didn't even let his condition stop him from writing. So it didn't stop him from writing, it doesn't stop him from promoting any of that. So doing his story, I didn't want to cut it. It was too wonderful, too important of a story to just do in 5 minutes. So he is actually the reason why we started a half-hour show, and that's how we started doing it. Just going out and talking to anybody that's doing something good. So it's not just authors. We did filmmakers, anybody that's doing something wonderful in the community. So that's how it started. And right now it's on hiatus because once the film started, I couldn't do that in film. And also I realized that This Is Baltimore 2 had taken over everything. I had this white dry erase board on the wall, and I had my schedule for editing, for interviewing, and all of this stuff, and my writing wasn't on there. But I didn't realize that until after the film, and it was like, where are you going? What are you doing? And I kind of got lost because I do love talking and promoting other people. So, but it's going to come back because my husband loves doing it. I love doing it. People asking us for it all the time. Even the cable, because we put it on public access. Mm-hmm. And we had a meeting one day, and they were like, "When are you going to do some more?" And they run our show all the time. I'm tired of looking at it. They run it so much. So it's like, oh my God, we got to do. They ran it the other night. I said, oh my God, we got to do some more. So we're going to get back to it because it is a good show, and it does show Baltimore in a different way, because that was another point of it, to show Baltimore, to show again that Baltimore is more than just crime. It's not just this crime-ridden city. There are some wonderful people doing some wonderful things, but nobody wants to show that. I mean, even during the Freddie Gray riots, we didn't go cover it. We were torn between whether we should cover it or not, and then I decided not to. And then we started getting phone calls and text messages and people telling us, after day 2 or 3 of the unrest, they were like, oh, I can't wait. I want to see This Is Baltimore 2. I'm ready to see something different. I'm ready to see something a little more positive. So it let us know, okay, we did the right thing, because there were plenty of people covering it. But we didn't, and it's not that we ignored it, because we eventually did do a piece on it, but we did it in a more creative way. There's a piece that where poets came and they were talking about the unrest and people talking about how they felt about it. So there's a This Is Baltimore too that actually deals with that, but in a more creative way. So we knew that we had done the right thing by not covering it and letting everybody else cover it, because once we started getting those calls and text messages saying, I'm so glad, I'm so grateful for This Is Baltimore too, we knew we did the right thing. So yes, it's going to come back. Everybody asks, are you going to bring it back? Yes, it's going to come back. I just now have to fit it in with my writing, because I realized that my writing is the reason why This Is Baltimore 2 came about, and it's the reason that it'll stay. And then so I have to focus on my writing a little bit more.
Awesome. That sounds like a great, because community is so important, and you do want to show the positive,
Yeah.
the positive parts of it. Like, I'm in New Hampshire, and you always hear about the heroin, and it's like, well, there's a lot of good stuff happening too, and I never really thought about it that way. I'm glad that you brought the positive in that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
And I'm looking forward to watching it now.
We have I think it's 15 shows. So yeah, it's great. It's great, and we met some wonderful people.
Yeah, that's the other part is doing things like this. You get to meet so many cool people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so let's get back to you. um, oh, I wanted to ask you. So it says on your website you're in the Black Writers Guild. Has
Yes.
being in a guild helped your career, do you think?
Oh my God, yes. The Black Writers Guild of Maryland has. I always say when Water came out, that's how I did my first tour, because Lewis Diggs, he started the guild. He started it for self-published authors. And so, but his thing was history, and he would take these photographs of people in Baltimore County and put them in a book and just kind of record what the person said about their family. And so he would go around and have these big displays of these photographs, and we would come with him. And so those photographs would draw people, and then they would come around to our tables and eventually buy our books. So I credit the Guild for taking me on my first tour. I mean, I went everywhere, just going around with the Guild. And on top of that, the Guild has we meet once a month. And they have these wonderful workshops. They talk about everything as far as the writing business. And you're with all writers, they're poets, playwrights, novelists, screenwriters, songwriters, and we're all there. So you have that encouragement every month. You have resources, and it's just a great, great group. And everybody supports you. When the movie came out, they bought 10 tickets and raffled them off. And then pretty much everybody from the Guild came to see the film. And they're just really, really supportive. And it's a wonderful, wonderful group. Yeah, I love that group. It's like, I've been a part of it for like 20 years now.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I always wonder about guilds and groups, and finding the ones that are, especially like most of my groups are Facebook groups,
Mhm.
and it's hard to find ones that are actually helpful.
Right, right.
So that's why I wanted to ask about the guild. So for
Yeah.
people who are thinking about it,
Mhm.
it's something to pursue.
Yes, the Guild is very, very helpful. And they give you also opportunities to talk about your work, because they have all these different panels. So a lot of the authors get to talk, get up and, once a month or so and talk about what they're doing. It's just great. They bring in so many people, and they help the youth. Next month we have a youth. Well, is it next month? Yeah, next month we have a youth panel where youth writers are coming and things like that. So it's just an awesome group. They do good work. It's not a waste of your time at all.
Good.
Yeah. And I understand what you're saying, because I was looking for groups when I found the Guild.
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah.
I'm still looking for my people.
And it's fun to get out and go and see people and talk to them, because I mean the the meeting starts at 1 and ends at 3, but we end up staying at 3:30 because you're normally just talking afterwards. Yeah, it's really good.
Maybe I need to start a guild.
And that's work too.
Yeah, that's my problem is I keep piling things on my plate and it's already way overfull, so I need to stop. um, so where can people find you?
Um, on my website, www.odessarose.com. But I'm always on Facebook. I don't. I have Twitter, I have Instagram, but Facebook is the one that I do more often than anything. I'm always on there. I don't know what it is about Facebook. Twitter, I just can't tweet every 5 seconds, and there's too much going on. By the time I come back to it, it'll be like months, and I'm like, oh, that happened. I'm so behind with Twitter. But yeah, Facebook is your best bet, and that's just if you type in Odessa Rose, it comes right up.
Awesome. I'll make sure to link in the bottom of the video for people
Yes.
to find you.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for talking with me. This has been an excellent conversation.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. As you know, authors need all the publicity we can get, and this definitely helps. Thank you.
Thank you.